Breaking news out of the NFL, the Tennessee Titans kicked off their season in a way nobody expected. A shocking result that left fans stunned, analysts divided, and plenty of questions about the future. What went wrong? And what does this mean moving forward? Stay tuned, because we're breaking it all down right now. The Tennessee Titans opened their 2024 campaign against the Denver Broncos and, unfortunately, they walked away with a tough loss, falling 20-2. That means the Titans start the season 0-1, and while the score may look lopsided, the story of this game is far more complicated. Now, before we dive deeper into what happened on both sides of the ball, offense and defense, let me quickly remind you, backhand index pointing right before listening to the latest NFL news, make sure you subscribe to the channel, like this video, and don't forget to hit that bell icon so you never miss an update. Alright, let's move on to the new news. Going into this matchup, the Titans were listed as 8.5-point underdogs. Many thought Denver would run away with it. But to the Titans' credit, they kept it competitive. The defense came to play, holding strong against a Broncos offense that was expected to pile on points. Tennessee's defensive front looked sharp, disciplined, and ready for a fight. But on the other side of the ball, the offense struggled badly. And this brings us to Cam Ward's highly anticipated NFL debut. Ward's stat line tells the story: 12 completions on 28 attempts, just 112 yards, no touchdowns. On the positive side, he didn't throw a single interception, which is a small win for a rookie quarterback making his first start. But the defining moment came late in the fourth quarter, when Ward, scrambling and trying to make something happen, lost the ball on a fumble. That sealed the Titans' fate. Still, it's far too early to panic. Remember this: quarterbacks taken with the No. 1 overall pick historically start slow. In fact, since the common draft era, top picks at quarterback have combined for a record of just 4 wins, 14 losses, and 1 tie in their very first NFL games. Struggles are part of the process, and Cam Ward is no exception. The struggles for the Titans didn't end there. History reminded us just how rare it is for a number 1 overall pick to begin his career with a win. The last time it happened before this year was Caleb Williams with Chicago, and before that? You'd have to go all the way back to David Carr in 2002. That's how long it's been. But what makes this loss sting even more is how many opportunities Tennessee had to change the outcome. Special teams set the stage when Chim DK exploded for a 70-yard kick return, putting the Titans deep in scoring position. Yet, they walked away empty. Later, Bo Nix threw an interception, gifting Tennessee another golden chance. Again, the offense marched, but failed to finish. Drive after drive, the same story: no touchdowns. Instead, the Titans settled for 4 field goals, and in today's NFL, that simply isn't enough to win. The most painful part? In the final 5 minutes, the Titans had 3 separate opportunities to tie the game. 3 shots, 3 empty trips. That's the definition of a missed opportunity. On the ground, Tony Pollard carried the load with 18 rushes for 89 yards and added a 30-yard reception. But even he wasn't perfect. His costly fumble while the Titans were driving killed what looked like their best chance to finally break through. When you look at the numbers, the picture is clear. Cam Ward's completion rate, under 50% with no touchdowns, leaves major concerns. The defense gave Tennessee every chance to stay in it, but the offense simply couldn't match that effort. For this team to grow, the passing game has to find its rhythm, and fast. If the Titans want to turn things around, it starts with discipline and execution. Calvin Ridley is a prime example. Yes, he drew the tough assignment of facing Pat Certain for most of the game, but 4 catches on 8 targets isn't enough. Ridley even had a couple of uncharacteristic drops, something you almost never see from him. He's too important to be this quiet. The Titans must find a way to get him more involved. But that wasn't the biggest issue. The real backbreaker was discipline, or the lack of it. 13 penalties for 131 yards. That's essentially gifting the Broncos more than a full field of free offense. When you lose by just 8 points, those mistakes become impossible to ignore. 1 less penalty, 1 more touchdown, and this game could have had a completely different ending. There were a few bright spots on offense. Joey Sly delivered when called upon, Elmaher reeled in 2 solid catches, and Chig Okonkwo nearly pulled off a highlight one-handed grab in the closing drive. But nearly doesn't win games, and that sums up Tennessee's night. Stalled drives, missed opportunities, and points left on the field. On defense, however, the Titans shined. They swarmed, pressured, and stood tall for nearly the entire game. The only blemish came in the final moments, when Denver was forced into a 4th and 8. Tennessee had Marvin Mims Jr. stuffed well behind the line of scrimmage, and it looked like the defense had made the stop of the game. But then came the flag. Jeffery Simmons was whistled for a personal foul after the whistle. Was it a soft call? Absolutely. Some would even call it one of the weakest flags you'll ever see. But regardless, it extended Denver's drive, and that was all the Broncos needed to close the door. That's life in the NFL in 2025, every detail matters, and every mistake gets magnified. Jeffery Simmons learned that the hard way. A veteran, an all-pro, a leader on this defense, yet in a moment of frustration, he shoved Marvin Mims after the play was already over. The flags came out instantly. Instead of forcing Denver into a punting situation, the Titans handed them 15 free yards and a new set of downs. That one lapse of judgment completely flipped the momentum. Still, outside of that misstep, the Titans' defense was outstanding. They lived in the backfield, collapsing the pocket on Bo Nix possession after possession. And the results speak for themselves. The Broncos managed just 20 points, and Nix looked rattled for most of the night. His stat line tells the story: 25 completions on 40 attempts, just 176 yards, and 2 costly interceptions. One went to Xavier Woods, the other to Roger McCreary, both plays showcasing how locked in Tennessee's secondary was. Even Simmons himself, despite the penalty, reminded everyone why he's one of the most dominant defensive linemen in football. His strip sack on Nix was a momentum-shifting play, setting the Titans up in prime scoring position. But instead of capitalizing, the offense once again settled for only a field goal. That has to change. And then came one of the most impressive moments of the night: 4th and 1, Denver lines up to sneak it with Nix. The Titans weren't fooled. Tvondra Sweat blew up the play, stonewalling Nix at the line and sending the crowd into a frenzy. It was the kind of defensive stand you put on highlight reels. The truth is simple: right now, the Titans can't move the ball on offense. That's the hurdle this team will have to clear all season. With Cam Ward, the talent is there. We've seen flashes in camp, in preseason, and even in this game. A few of his throws were jaw-dropping. But the inconsistency, the missed reads, and the erratic decisions show that it's going to take time for him to grow into the quarterback Tennessee needs. And while the focus has been on the Titans' mistakes, Denver wasn't flawless either. In fact, Sean Payton made a baffling decision late in the 4th quarter. Up by 21, sitting at Tennessee's 35-yard line on a 4th and 8, the smart move was to kick the field goal and put the game completely out of reach. Instead, they went for it, sent Nix deep, and the Titans' defense brought the heat. The pass never had a chance, and Tennessee took over on downs. Unfortunately, the offense once again failed to capitalize. But here's the bottom line: this was just week 1. No need to hit the panic button yet. The Titans were supposed to get blown out, yet they hung tough against a team chasing a division crown, maybe even a Super Bowl. Denver's offense looked shaky, and it was their defense that carried the day. Meanwhile, Tennessee showed grit, fight, and a defense that looks ready to keep them in every game. For now, this feels less like a disaster and more like a moral victory. The Titans walked off the field with a loss, but they also walked away with proof they can compete, even against the best. In the end, this game unfolded much like many expected. The Broncos' pass rush, which produced over 60 sacks last season, looked every bit as dangerous. For Tennessee, it was a relief that Dre Greenlaw wasn't on the field, because if he had been, Cam Ward's debut might have looked even rougher. Still, the Titans weren't without their own setbacks. Khalid Mullings left the game early with an ankle injury, and his status moving forward will be something to monitor. On the ground, Julius Chestnut and Tony Pollard carried the load, but neither was able to flip the momentum when the offense stalled. It was, in every sense, the story of an opening week filled with growing pains. Now, here's the bigger picture: moral victories don't really exist in the NFL. Wins and losses are all that matter. But for a team with a rookie quarterback, a new identity, and a roster still finding its rhythm, the one thing you ask for is simple: be competitive. And on that front, the Titans delivered. They weren't blown out. They weren't embarrassed. They stood toe-to-toe with a contender and showed flashes of a team that can fight, scratch, and claw their way through a long season. Yes, the mistakes hurt. Yes, the offense must improve. But Tennessee proved in Week 1 that they can hang. So the question now isn't whether the Titans can compete, it's whether they can take that next step and start finishing games. Because in this league, close isn't good enough.